in the last couple of years, it's been the most challenging in services. It's all you have, right? I mean, services is people. It's the most important. And when we started the company, it was really important to us to make this all about the people, but do it like for real.
Welcome to the Flywheel Effect, the podcast where ambition meets expertise in the world of luxury home services. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or a forward-thinking professional, this is your platform for growth, profit, and prosperity. Each episode, we dive deep into how to leverage data for smarter business decisions and share insights that help you transition from technician to visionary. Let's jump in.
Another episode of the Flywheel Effect. This week, Matt Bernath won't be joining us, but I'm lucky to have CEO of Daisy, Hagan Kappler. Hagan, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining. So Hagan, for those of you who don't know, is CEO of Daisy, a new startup company in the custom integration space, where they are one of the first national smart home and business integration and service brand. They're looking to go from coast to coast and help integrators, the people on the ground, create great businesses. Prior to Daisy, Hagan also ran two very large franchise organizations, ServiceMaster, who ultimately was owned by Rourke Capital, and Threshold Brands, which was owned by Riverside. She's experienced running these trillion-dollar brands with thousands of locations and understand what it means for home service entrepreneurs to be successul. Hagan, so you and I have a little bit similar background, both Jersey kids. Which go Jersey. I know you're not there anymore. You've exited, but I'm sure you still appreciate your Jersey roots. And then both of us went on to New England for college, little liberal arts schools and MBAs. Now when you think about your background of being from New Jersey, liberal arts schools, do you appreciate that? Like, I know I do. It's like something I'm really proud of that part of what I did.
Totally. I went to a small public high school. I'm still really close to the friends that I had. I'm very close to my family. In fact, most of the friends that I grew up with are still on the East Coast. My family is still back in the Northeast, and so I think a lot about my roots there, and yeah, I think that that's very much a part of, who I am, and then going to a liberal arts school, another small school, and very close knit, and still very close to the friends that I met there. And I think that throughout, my career, when I meet someone who went to, a small New England school, or went to the same college as I did, especially here on the West Coast, you kind of
Yeah.
instantly have that connection. And so that just tells you about the power of a network. And so you instantly want to help that person, and I see that in franchising, and I see that in the integration space. As a history major, I was a history major at Williams, and then I jumped right into investment banking, which was
Right.
really challenging. But I think that in my career, what I found was really valuable about that, and what I tell, my kids, and what I tell people who are deciding what they want to study or where they want to go to college, is the value of being able to look at data and tell a story about it. You can always learn about finance. You can learn about numbers. You can, the banks will teach you those types of things, but it's actually really difficult to hone how to tell a story, and and it's very rare to be able to, to flex those kind of creative muscles. I mean, I try to do that in PowerPoint charts and things like that, but I think that's a bit of a stretch.
It's hard.
So I think that, I feel really, really lucky about where I grew up, and love to get back to the East Coast as much as I can.
You just made a great point that resonated with me a lot. At Middlebury, up the road, side note, we always looked at Williams as our primary rival, even though you didn't care about us at all. That was just the nature of the beast. I studied political science, political philosophy, and also got into storytelling, analyzing, writing, creating thoughts and ideas. Jumped into private equity immediately after college, and learned finance that way, similar to how you did, when at Goldman. And the ability to craft thoughts and ideas out of whole cloth that you build in a liberal arts kind of written word type of education that we receive is that value is kind of missing in a lot of people's thinking about what part of education matters, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I can't imagine what I would be like professionally if I didn't have that experience of diving deep into literature and words and trying to figure out what it means. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that liberal arts education is not appreciated as it should.
Yeah. First of all, my brother went to Middlebury. So
I know.
for
Yep.
4 years, we were like, who's Williams? We could have cared less
Hmm.
about purple and
Yep.
gold. And we very much were cheering on mid. Um, the, and I think I was always drawn to, the art history classes, and I took the bare minimum of math and science classes at Williams.
Same.
I did,
Same.
I did well in those classes, but I knew that and I remember my dad telling me that you can trust me, you'll be using math like the rest of your life. If you love that, do that, but it's good. You're not going to be able to, it's not very likely you'll be running an art museum. So you might as well, spend some time, doing what Williams, is really well known for, which was art history, and get absorbed in the things that interest you the most. So I really luxuriated in that. And yeah, that's what I advise people. And it turns out that those skills around, writing and communication and like I said, telling stories turned out to be really worthwhile. And having something to talk about, with people, that can also be really helpful, especially when you're young in your career and you're nervous and you don't really know as much about the markets and those types of things. So yeah, that's what I always tell people who are thinking about what to do, that not to undercut those types of things.
As one professor explained it to me, that the purpose of your education is to be the most interesting person at a cocktail party. And hopefully that happened. So after professionally, you had the big names. You went to Goldman, McKinsey, had a really interesting path, and then decided to get into home services, which is a bit of a different choice. What drove that decision?
Honestly, I had always wanted to um, be more in a P&L ownership role. And I was on a path to do that when I was at Starbucks, but our family actually was moving back to the Northeast. My husband is now also a CEO of a private equity owned company, but he was, at the time, running a Danaher business. And so they were moving him across the country. And so we've just had to kind of jockey between the two of our careers. So I kind of kept falling back into, strategy and M&A roles, which were great. And I got to, get exposure to a lot of different businesses. One of those businesses was HVAC. So I worked at United Technologies and was helping the carrier business. Then I moved over to Ingersoll Rand and was working with the train business. So I was exposed to, HVAC and was helping to roll up some of the services businesses on the commercial side. But I had a mentor who had moved over to ServiceMaster who said, hey, there's some interesting opportunities here within home services. We're really focused in pest control because ServiceMaster owned Terminex at the time. But, the CEO here thinks that there's an opportunity for home cleaning, for disaster restoration, or commercial cleaning. We'd love to have you help us on the M&A side, but you could actually also, run the business as the business unit president as well. So I really just jumped at the opportunity to, one, own a P&L, and then two, drive transformation to the tune of a 30%, growth target, not 3%. That to me
Yeah,
sounded
30% is huge.
pretty interesting. Yeah, I thought, okay, that gets me going. So yeah, we moved the family to Memphis, and that was what got me into home services.
So then you got there. You're in home services. You're dealing with M&A. You're buying different companies, but also owning the P&L, the profit and loss statement. Essentially being responsible. That means, for those who don't know, it means you're responsible for every aspect of the business. It's ultimately on your shoulders. And so you're there running these brands, dealing with franchisees. How close did you get working with franchisees at that time?
Oh, very close. So Mary Maids, as an example, is a 40-year brand. We had 567 locations, 300 franchisees. Globally, it was a $400 million brand. In the United States, it was a $300 million company at a system-wide sales level. Hadn't really grown in the past 10
Hmm.
years. The market itself was growing, 3 to 5%. It was a $25 billion market. As we looked at that market, we felt like, gosh, the top 10 players only made up about 4%. So it was super fragmented. And we thought, there has to be an opportunity to better serve the needs of the customer. But you're right. The first step was to get to know the franchisees and really understand how we could better support the franchisees. And I think that's something that I really loved about that business, and about what I love about franchising is that you're not only, and home services is, first of all, I very much connect to the need for the service. I am
Hmm.
running
Yeah.
a household. I've got 4 kids. I work full time. I just cannot keep up, so I need the help. I always said that if I had to choose between, like, groceries and my cleaning lady, like, my kids would go hungry. They would have to make do with ramen and Pop Tarts. But so I think it is essential, an essential service.
Right.
So I love the fact that we get to know the consumer, and I felt like we were really helping a consumer who really resonated with me, but also we got to support and help these small and medium-sized businesses in a very meaningful way by providing a brand, by giving them that, like, a kind of a secret weapon of allowing them to be this local player, but also having the backstop of, some strong infrastructure and support that no other local player could really, compete with. So, understanding the needs of the local player was really critical. And yeah, getting to know the franchisees and learning the business from their perspective, that was always the most important part of franchising in that business.
That's great. And, having been in franchising myself in the past, I do know when you're dealing with these small business owners who have the weight of the world on their shoulders, who care about what they're doing, but also feel that they have the shoulder of the franchisor to lean on. And when franchisors, as you know, can go one of two ways. They can be really supportive, or they can be terrible. There's just a sucking value. And if you can be a valuable franchisor and really support the small businesses, you are their best friend. You make their businesses better. You make them more profitable. You make them grow faster. And from what you're describing, it sounds like that's what happened at Mary Maids. If you hit that 30% growth target in a 3% growth industry, both by, I assume, adding locations and increasing same store sales, you were probably cheered at every franchise meeting there was.
I always thought that, like, at the next conference, they're going to give me like a standing ovation, or my team a standing ovation, but that never
They never did.
happens in franchising.
Never happened.
And rightly so. They're dependent on these businesses for their kids to go to college, for them to be able to go on vacation, for them to feed their families. I mean, rightly so. I think they have every right to be demanding of the franchisor. And part of the reason that ServiceMaster decided to sell all of the franchise brands to Work Capital was because we weren't the company wasn't necessarily investing in those businesses and hadn't been for a while. And so we did our best, but giving, selling the brand to Work
Hmm.
was a good way to get to a better parent and make investments to better support those franchisees.
And then from there, you went on to Threshold Brands, where you're CEO of the entire family of franchise operations, right?
Yes, that was great because ServiceMaster, a 92-year-old brand, um, we had 400 franchisees in the US, over $700 million brand across the globe. And like I said, Mary Mae's 40-year-old brand. Threshold was just getting started. Riverside had created Dwyer Group, which ultimately became Neighborly, which had become, I think a $3 billion brand at the time and had sold to KKR for like a 24 times multiple. We had sold ServiceMaster brands to Rourke for an 18 times earnings multiple. So, I knew that there was a lot of value to be created in the space if done right. And I knew that Riverside would be a great partner to help get that done. And what we were doing was buying up home services brands, but more at like the founder level. So
Hmm.
essentially a startup of startups. And then, these brands had maybe 10 or 15 franchisees and just couldn't quite get to that next level of growth. And so we built out a sales organization, we built out the brands, we built out a marketing organization, built out a technology stack. We created a mission and a vision and a values, like why do we exist? What does Threshold Brands mean? What does it stand for? We grew the brand 30%. It was so fun and I really enjoyed putting that team together. Um I think the company now has 10 brands and they're doing really well and really excited for that team and excited to see where they go.
So, and that's great. And so most of the franchises that you ran for home services were more of the repetitive services, whether it's maids, termite, even remediation is the same process over and over again. Um, and now you're taking that experience and you're rolling it into Daisy, which is in a completely different industry, custom integration, so technology integration, but mostly project based, and a different type of model. And I know you're doing some things around those more recurring processes. But what was it about your experience running those brands and the attributes of the CI or custom integration space that piqued your interest?
Yeah, so one, there really is no national brand in the space. So I saw an opportunity there. And from my time at Ingersoll Rand and United Technologies, where we had been working with home automation on the HVAC manufacturer side, I
Hmm.
remember talking at the time and going to CES and hearing all this buzz about smart home. But now that I was looking at these services businesses, I'm wondering, well, where are the brands that are supposed to be installing these things? And realized that they were all just, mom and pops, and there really wasn't a national brand in the same way that there was in, yeah, pest and home cleaning and those types of things. So one, I noticed that there was a gap in the space, and so there was an opportunity there. I also so as I got to know some of the integrators who were performing this work, you're right that I mean, the first word is custom. So
Right.
um it's not like we owned an insulation business at Threshold, and it's a one-time project-based work, but it's the same process every time. That said, the back office work could be take it to the extent that that could be taken off the plate, of the owner of those businesses. That stuff I think could help a dealer focus more on the actual project work for the homeowner for the builder, which is something that I learned from, these businesses that we were buying, these founder-led businesses, and then also the help that we were providing for the franchisees. So the accounting, the HR, the recruiting, the digital marketing that gets so overwhelming because it's just constantly changing and evolving. As we traveled around the country and met with, hundreds of dealers in this $30 billion market, we just kept hearing consistent pain points. We couldn't get through a lunch with someone without him having to take, 20 phone calls from customers and technicians. We looked at each other and we were like, we should have a call center and we should have a technician line, that could just answer some. Now, some calls need to go to the owner, and sometimes the owner might need to go to the customer's home, but customers should have to pay for that call because in disaster restoration, there's fires, there's floods on Christmas morning, but customer won't pay for us to go to their home. Otherwise, they can always wait. Actually, like if we figured this out in disaster restoration, we could probably figure this out for Xboxes, So that was number
Right. I
two.
mean, very demanding, those
Yeah.
Xbox
Yeah.
players, as you know.
I know. And you need your speakers out on your putting green, like stat,
Yep, exactly.
And then third is just, actually it's a little bit of the recurring services that you mentioned in home cleaning and in pest, but, it actually came more from my own personal observation, which is that I am working from home and it turns out 50% of Americans are relying on internet to work from home. My kids are getting online to do their homework. A high percentage of kids now are using the internet for homework. People are getting online for doctor's appointments. A lot of us are streaming online. When people try to connect stuff online or do smart home on their own, they're returning equipment like 60% of the time. And professional help on this stuff has increased to like 60% of the time. So people are needing professional help and they just don't know where to turn to get it. So my argument is that, and our argument at Daisy is that this is the most important service. And again, there's not a great, way for people to find the service and there's no national brand in the space. And here I have like the cleaning lady who shows up reliably once a week. There's a landscape guy who shows up and cuts my lawn once a week. I got a pest control guy who comes up once a quarter. Yet for this most important service, like where's my tech guy? And
Right.
I think that in a very short amount of time, once people catch on to this, because I think we're just leading the way. I don't think we're going to be the only one providing this service. That there'll be a time when we'll be like, remember when we didn't have, you know, Daisy or the tech guys coming by our house? Remember when we had to do this stuff on our own? It's kind of ridiculous. Like, you're not expected to like DIY your HVAC system. Yet I'd argue that some of this stuff is more complex than, the furnace that we have installed in our homes. It's, you're not expected to DIY your dishwasher, so, I just think that, and right now, we're obviously serving a very high end
Hmm.
consumer. I think as this starts to get a little bit more operationalized, as this starts to become more of a household name, as technology prices start to come down, as we start to make this case to manufacturers, I think that we will start to reach a broader audience, but that'll take time. And then eventually
Yeah, so
I'll get my tech guy
yeah,
because I'm not,
yeah,
I'm probably not I'm not the target consumer quite yet.
right. That's funny. So I mean, it's brought up some really interesting points. It's the industry that you're in, as you said, we're custom. Right now it's very much a large project based revenue. And you're right. Most integrators don't want to come out on they call it a truck roll to fix things. But what you're pitching is very much a service oriented model where the goal is to make the customer happy with a level of service over a long time that they no longer have to worry about this important, whether technology in their home, as opposed to where most integration is these days is let me get in, get out, get the project done and move on to the next one. How has that change in the way you're describing the way you see the industry changing? How is that resonating? Is that resonating with the integrators you're speaking with?
Well, I mean, we still want people to be efficient. So it's not that we
Hmm.
want, these meetings to like drag on or anything like that.
Of course.
And everyone we meet with, they agree and they've either, most people have some sort of service offering. So I would say everyone agrees that, and they have some sort of service offering, and they do answer the phone for customers on Christmas morning, and they are there for their customers. So it's not like we're the first ones to have this idea. We're just, like I said, we're just trying to take some things off the plate and we're piloting service offerings so that we can try to come up with a way to boil it down to make it practical, so that our guys can offer it. I don't think we necessarily have it nailed yet. We've got a number of pilots going on in our owned operations. And that's the beauty of what we're doing is that we own now 7 locations. So we can
Hmm.
use those as like our petri dishes so that we won't harm our franchisees at all. We'll test these things out, make sure we've got them nailed, show the results. And to the extent a franchisee wants to leverage that service, they should, they're welcome to take that playbook off the shelf and deploy it. But I don't mean to imply that that integrators aren't effective at what they do today. It's just to say that we're trying to figure out a way to make the service offerings um, more um, more efficient, more realistic, more profitable for integrators so they can incorporate it into the offering and oh, by the way, make their businesses more valuable because what we see in pests, what we see in even HVAC and in home cleaning is these companies are trading for, double digit multiples on earnings. You're not seeing those types of multiples in this industry for a number of different reasons. One of which is because there's such a project orientation and customization to the projects. So we think that not only by having a recurring service offering as a part of these businesses, will that make the businesses more valuable? But in pest, it's not like in pest you can offer it's not like the technician can say, "Hey, by the way, your grass all needs to be upgraded this month because we have all new
Hmm.
grass that'll make the pests like not exist anymore." But in our industry, things are constantly changing. The quality of our, televisions will improve if we, you know, upgrade our Apple TV. People are constantly looking for the new thing. Smaller, large, there's always going to be like a glitchy remote control, right? There's always something that we can offer for the customer. There is always going to be like that speaker by the putting green that we're going to want to incorporate outside. So that is something that I think no home service company can boast. And
They don't.
I think we're going to end up being way more valuable than any of these pest control companies or HVAC companies or home cleaning companies. So that's what makes us really excited about trying to help our franchisees incorporate a recurring service model as part of their businesses.
So I appreciate you not wanting to imply that there's things they're not efficient at. I'm going to say it straight out. They're not efficient at providing service after the project and need to be significantly better and don't appreciate how important it is to their long-term success. So what you are saying and doing, even though you don't want to call it the integrators, I will. They need to get on board with understanding the value of long-term customer value, and what they can do for the revenue and being more efficient at their jobs. Because you talk about pest, right? They go out once a quarter to the location, so that's a truck roll. I don't understand why a truck roll from an integrator in the same type of scheduling can't also um, be profitable, right? It is doable. You just have to structure it the right way. Uh, in a and going back to something you said earlier, um, talking about helping the businesses around the back office, accounting, process, everything else. Knowing a lot of integrators, a lot of them come from either a tech background where they were pulling wire and installing, or a sales background where they're just out selling projects. And then somehow they kind of fell into owning their own business, which incorporates not just selling, not just tech, but also operating a business, understanding finance, payroll, everything else. Something I'm, as you are as well, passionate about trying to help and improve. With these integrators, with that package of the back office support, how do you perceive the value in opening up that time so that they can focus on the things they actually love, which is really projects, either sales, tech, or both? Around that value, what's the ultimate value in making that third leg of the business more efficient and accurate, really?
We have two goals for owners and for franchisees. One is to create generational wealth for them and for their
Hmm.
families. We want them all to be like, showing up at our convention in 5 years, like on their own private jets. It's like my vision. I think that they should be making a ton of money from these businesses. And I think by taking some of the stuff off their plate, there's no reason why they shouldn't. So it's almost like unquantifiable, the value. I think the second value though is quality of life. So, um, most of the people that we've been working with and talking to, haven't really been on a true vacation in quite some time. They can't like attend a happy hour on a Friday night without having to step outside 3 times to help somebody make sure that they're having a nice time with their friends because it's a
Right.
client who can't figure out how to get there, you know, Sonos to work or whatever it is. So those are really our two goals. And we have identified, like I said, a number of pain points that are pretty consistent across owners. And so we've built out support centers to address those pain points. Um, and those include a customer support center, so essentially a call center. It includes finance and accounting support with vitals guidance. It'll also include an ERP implementation. So we'll have a way to have kind of all of the data be streamlined. And so we'll have kind of one source of truth, one standard chart of account so we can give guidance. It's not just though an ERP, which kind of sounds actually like a root canal and super painful. It's more about because frankly we haven't even implemented our ERP yet. It's been more about working with Vital and working with an outside accounting firm to get some, like I said, a source of truth on numbers, and then sitting down with the business that we've either acquired or who we have partnered with, and just looking at what's driving some of those numbers and trying to understand a few areas that we want to work on to improve. And those could be pricing improvements. Those could be labor utilization. It just really depends on the business. It's a real partnership between our team, who's a collection of inside industry and outside industry, and then the business.
So the data piece that you're talking about of consolidating that, and making it comparable, um, is as with Vital, it's like, that's what we
Yeah.
do. It's a problem. Um, how are the locations and the integrators you're working with responding to that attempt to normalize data and make it usable?
It depends. I mean, I think in some cases, generally, and it's partly the owners who we selected to be a part of this. So we've selected owners who are willing to listen and are open to trying on new things and want the help. So it's owners who probably have been or are part of Vital, and so that tells us
Hmm.
something about they want to improve, or they're part of different networking groups, or they're part of buying groups. So they attend CD every year. So that tells us something that they value being a part of a network and they want to improve. So generally, they're open to new ideas. They're open to trying things on. And, we have monthly report outs, and it's mainly our team reporting out to the business. And the extent something's not working, we'll just stop it. I would also say that most owners always have, as anybody does, everybody has kind of their thing that they've always wanted to do, or they've always wanted to try, or that person they've always wanted to
Yep.
hire. And so all they need is either the confidence to go hire that person or the money to go hire that person. And so to the extent we can support that, and we can kind of give the green light to the office manager, that's an easy thing for us to green light. And then we're like, and then how about you make some pricing changes? They're like, sure. So not that it's a negotiation, but it's very much a conversation. As long as we're not throwing like 15 things at the person, then we know
Mhm.
if he says yes to 15 things, it's probably, 15 things aren't going to get done. But we try to be really crisp and clear about where we think we're going to have improvements. We watch those things and we set off, on three, new things. So no, it's been great. I mean, all of our businesses are performing better than actually we had even expected, thanks to their teams and their efforts. And I think in a little bit, thanks to some of the help our team has provided as well. It's been great.
That's great. Now that you've been about, give or take, almost a year into this, working with integrators, what have been the biggest surprises or challenges that you've encountered in coming into this industry?
I think one of the surprises is how welcoming everyone in the industry has been. Truly, I think one of the things I was really nervous about, not knowing anything about this industry, was, will I have any credibility? I mean, I don't have any credibility. So will someone like Matt Wallen at Brilliant AV, will someone like Gordon Van Zuden up in Cyber Manor, will Richard Gleiks, are they just going to like laugh me out of the room with these ideas? And um, to the person, everyone who I've met with has been so encouraging, so supportive, so helpful. Randy Stearns at D Tools. I mean, it's just
Yep.
been, you guys at Vital. I've really appreciated it. And our whole team has really appreciated it. And I think it says a lot about this industry. And I think that's a really good sign, because I think that, you guys should expect, and I think it'll be a great thing for the industry to see a lot more investment flooding the industry. And I think there's a lot more great things to come here.
That's right. You mentioned Richard Gleiks. You're probably not aware of this, but in 2003, when Richard was running HTSA, he and I discussed and were planning development of a consolidation and a development of a national chain of integrators. So this idea has been around a long time for him as well.
That's
Literally that was
great.
over 20 years ago that he and I were
Yeah,
at
he's
his
got
at
a
his,
ton
at
of
his
great
office out in
ideas.
Chester, Pennsylvania. He's a
Awesome.
good guy to have in your team. That's good. This industry is really great. It is close. People get to know each other. There's some gossip that goes around, but generally everybody wants to be helpful. We all realize, I think this is true in most cases, realize that we all grow together. And I think that this industry, because we have to integrate. We have to have there's different pieces of technologies. There's different service providers that all have to come together to deliver great experiences to
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
Which is really a wonderful surprise. What's
Yeah.
the biggest challenge? What's the biggest challenge you've encountered
Um,
in?
hiring experienced technicians. Um, it's, the great thing about this industry is that the retention of once you find a technician, it seems it's easy to hold on to technicians. We feel like we have something I will brag about is I think we are building the best training and the best way to access that training for technicians, and we'll continue to invest and improve that. We have a learning management system. We've partnered with Cedia. We'll continue to add our own custom training. We have a clear career path for technicians, all the way to, if you want to own your own Daisy franchise one day, that's available for you. We've had now 2 technicians who, because they for family reasons, had to move from the current location, we were able to offer them a job, either working for Daisy or working for another location. So they were able to stay, in working for our company. So there's mobility opportunities. We offer free benefits for our employees. We offer really attractive compensation. We offer maternity and paternity leave for employees. We are training green techs as well. So we are
That's
we
great.
are creating what we call kind of like a nirvana for technicians, but it's been very challenging to find technicians. So we are finding out of industry recruiters and working with those recruiters to see if they can help us to identify talent and continue to, find talent from other industries, other service industries and pull them in here. But that's been tough.
Does finding technicians, have you found finding technicians within CI to be noticeably different than finding employees and service providers in your other franchise systems that you've operated?
No, I mean, in the last couple of years, it's been the most challenging in services. It's all you have, right? I mean, services is people. It's the most important. And when we started the company, it was really important to us to make this all about the people, but do it like for real. So many companies say we're the
They
best,
say
we're
it and
going to
do it.
create the best place, but don't really do it. But I was like, no, we're going to offer free benefits for people. Just bring me the benefits program and I will approve it. And we're going to offer maternity leave programs for people. And by the way, we're going to find really talented women and train them how to be technicians because this is a great job for women. It's Monday through Thursday, like 9 till 3. There's no reason why there shouldn't be more women technicians out there. So it's like, that's it. It's not like I'm not trying to be like doing something good for social, like for
Hmm.
DEI or anything like that. It's just like, that's a good business idea. There's like a whole
Oh, it's
talent
great.
pool. Yeah.
Like
Um,
half the world.
but the
I mean,
difference is that in commercial cleaning, for example, because I ran the ServiceMaster clean business, we had to hire 50 people every month to keep up with the turnover. So, and we did it. So I know just for one branch in an $8 million company. So I know that we can do it. I'm just, we bought our first company in February. So we're only 5 months into this. We just haven't like cracked the code on it. I know we'll figure it out. And, or we are going to build, the best place to work. So, um, it's just taking us some time to figure that out.
yeah, and I could see your history at Starbucks come through in that benefits and the way you want to pay your employees, right? Like
Yeah,
even
that's another great
part-timers,
example. Hmm.
right?
We
Like
also,
it sounds very
speaking,
similar.
yeah, and speaking of Starbucks, at Starbucks, we called everyone a partner. Starbucks calls all of its employees partners because after 6 months, you own stock in the company. We
Hmm.
have been giving stock to every employee that we acquire. So everyone is an owner of Daisy. It's like one of our favorite moments is the day that we announce an acquisition to our employees and blah, 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 who we are, talk about the company, and it's going to be great. And by the way, each of you now have free benefits and each of you are a stockholder in the company. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah, their minds must explode. I mean, it's such a different mentality on how to treat people than in most service businesses, right? Which is people in many people are disposable, never provided opportunity for advancement, never provided ownership. They're just a cost center, even though they generate actually all the profits too.
yeah, I
So
mean, we couldn't do this without our team members in the field. Um,
it's great.
so yeah, we have to make sure that we're making this a place that they can't wait to, get to work and want to stay here. So, and tell their friends to they come here too.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's a refreshing perspective that I don't hear often enough in talking to people. Um,
Thanks.
that's great. So now with Daisy, so you own 7 locations. You have this history of franchising. Is your goal what's your anticipated goal on versus own locations versus franchising?
Yeah, we'll probably acquire a few more locations. At this point, it's mostly about tucking into our existing locations,
Hmm.
so that we can, our goal is 20% market share across the country. So in order to do that, we want to have 20% market share in the locations where we're at so that we can start to see the benefits of that kind of, leadership. Um, so and also we found that if you have trouble hiring techs, why don't you go acquire some techs? So that might just be, an easier path than trying to go find those technicians um, and so doing kind of an acqui-hire strategy. So that we're really kind of winding down the acquisitions now that we've built out that flagship, and built out that foothold. We're at, getting to a really strong position in terms of a run rate, sales position, revenue position. So we are pivoting now to more of a conversion franchise strategy. We just signed our third franchise actually in Virginia last week. We'll look to sign another franchise agreement here probably next week. We're having monthly, what we call discovery days here in Costa Mesa at Brilliant AV. Well, the formerly known as, it's like Prince, formerly known as Brilliant AV,
Right.
where we do all of our discovery days and they get to know these businesses and their owners a little bit better, go out for dinner, have a little fun, talk a little bit about what we're doing. So yeah, so really the goal here is not to use capital, not to really invest in buying companies. This isn't a roll-up strategy. We're really looking to invest in support, invest in resources, invest in capabilities so we can better help these owners and help these companies achieve what I just talked about, the generational wealth and getting quality of life back.
That's great. So we want 20% market share across the entire CI. That plan, how many Daisy locations would that equate to in your mind?
Oh, well, it's a long-term goal. I mean, if you assume the
Yeah, like
market's
years
growing,
down.
if you assume the market's growing 15, it's probably thousands, Brent. I mean, because if you assume there's 20,000 20,000 locations today, growing 15%, it's probably, thousands and thousands.
Which would
We
be,
haven't built it out
which would be
that
an
far.
extraordinary. It'd be
It's probably
extraordinary. I mean,
10 or 20 years from now.
right. It would be extraordinary. And if you could actually get to 20%, you'll probably get the 30% too, which would be even more bonkers. I would be impressed.
Well,
Very impressed.
our vision here is, it's like Terminix and pest control. Terminix has about 20% market share. There
Right.
still are a lot of independent pest control companies out there. So, and like I said, pest control, those independent pest control companies are still selling for, multiples on revenue. So those companies are still doing very well. And, and there's still a lot of potential in those companies across the market. So as Terminix continues to do well, Terminix sold to Rent-A-Kill, but as the large pest control companies do well, more investment continues to flood and in that space, and the smaller companies continue to do well. So we think that it's goodness, across the market overall. And one day someone at Terminix said, our goal is to be 20% market share. Like at some point, someone had to have that vision. We just want to be the Terminix of, custom integration. And we think that the path to get there is a national brand. And part of the rationale for it is exactly what you said, that kind of route density, the idea that, to have a truck driving around a neighborhood, going from home to home, have a neighbor see the truck. In fact, we've seen this in our pilots where a customer literally ran across his neighbor's lawn, tracking down our tech saying, "Where have you been all my life?" As
Oh,
they
wow.
never knew even where to find us, So it's just, the more we're out there driving around, then when they see a truck of a, mom and pop or a smaller dealer, they're going to say, "Oh, they're just like a Daisy. I'll give them a call."
That'd be a great place. I mean, the fact that it's already happening, that they ran across the lawn it's just good. I mean, it is, this technology is so hard. To your point, it's so hard for people. I mean,
It's
I
so
had
hard.
Yeah, even installing what's supposedly simple is really, really hard. Like a video doorbell. So, oh, it's easy. I'll go put it in. Nobody can do it. I mean, some people can, but it's it's a single item, and can imagine what else goes into it is just something beyond the realm of that. I mean, everybody can do things, but it's it's a service that's needed.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it myself. You don't want to do yourself. I don't want to mow my own lawn. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's
Yeah.
luckily, and so um, it's really a great vision. I could see driving that service orientation, and also the employee empowerment is a very unique piece that we don't really see much in this industry either. So you know, can't wait to see where this goes. It's been,
Yeah.
I think the other flip side is bringing in something else that you talk about multiples, right? For businesses, and just kind of circling what that means for people. And, there'll be listeners who don't understand what that means. Most
Oh, yeah.
businesses sell of a multiple of earnings, meaning if you make $1 million and you say you're a $5 million company and you're at a
Right.
20% operating margin, which means you make
Right.
essentially $1 million. And the market says you are worth, essentially buyers are the market, say you're worth 5 times that. You're worth $5 million. Um,
Right.
if you all of a sudden can be worth 10 times that, you've doubled your value, which is
Right.
what, to your point, is trying to drive generational wealth. Just want to give that sense. But what's really important is if you look at most of the businesses in this industry, and actually most independent service companies, what is their business worth? It's worth zero, right? Most businesses like this don't trade at a multiple. They simply shut down when the owner retires. And so, and why is that? Is because they're a person and they're not a company.
Yeah.
Um,
That's right.
and right. And so now with what your model is really transforming these independent operators into companies that have data and metrics and growth and income and a system and employees that now becomes valuable to somebody else. And I think that's an underappreciated transition for most people. Um, and,
Yeah.
and is that part of the message of the generational wealth is actually, hey, it's not just generational wealth, but it's being worth, having your life work
Yeah.
be worth something to somebody
I
else.
think that's a really great way to put it. I think that's a really great way to put it. Um, because you're right. So much of the value of the company is in the owner's head. And
Hmm.
so if you do find a buyer, the risk of the value of that company so high because if an owner walks away, the company's value completely destroyed. And so through our tools, we start to mitigate that risk. And also we create a whole stable of buyers through kind of our franchise development program because we have a whole team that their whole job is to find buyers of existing businesses or guys who want to start these businesses from scratch. And this whole idea of quality of life, it's interesting by giving an owner a better quality of life, time off, time for vacation, better hours. That only means that less of the business is relying on what's going on in your head and more is automated and more is in a CRM that we've got for you. And the team is able to do things on their own. And you've got an office manager who can manage the day to day. And that also is actually enhancing the value of your business. So they kind of go hand in hand.
For sure. And
Yeah.
it's, it's, it's needed so deeply. Well, good.
Yeah.
We're running up against basically an hour of what I think is a great conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to add here?
No, thank you, Brent. This is so nice. I appreciate the time and appreciate all the help that you and Matt and the team and Vital have provided to Daisy and our team and our companies as we've been learning so much about this industry. So thanks
Oh,
for
you're welcome.
everything.
You're welcome. It's been fun for us too, and fun to watch your journey to grow Daisy. I do have one last question for you, and it kind of cycles back to the beginning of our New Jersey conversation. Is now that you're in
Okay.
California, how much do you miss not pumping? How much do you miss not having to pump your own gas?
I'm really bad at pumping my own gas. I was traveling recently and with the team. with a team member. We had to return a rental car, and I literally went to one tank and I couldn't get the gas to work. So I went to the next tank. I couldn't get that to work. And I got in the car. We drove away and he was like, wait, the tank isn't full. It's like I couldn't figure it out.
Full service gas in New Jersey is one of the main reasons not to leave. I know.
It
So
makes me very
my
appreciative though of this weather. And so I think that I because I live in Southern California now. So I'm very appreciative of 72 degrees and sunny almost every day.
my wife grew up in San Diego and she's now in New Jersey. And every time it's not 72 and sunny, she looks
Yeah.
at me and says, so why are we living here again? And then I says, well, you don't have to pump your own gas. She says, oh, that's a good reason. And that's
Yeah,
about it.
that's right. That's good. Great.
So
That's
cool.
right.
This is great. So thank you, Hagan. This has been a great conversation. As always, this is here at the Flywheel Effect. We don't have any advertisements, but what we do is really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it. Please like it. Please leave us a review. And until the next time, this is Brennan Sonnek-Schmelz at the Flywheel Effect. Thank you very much, Hagan.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Flywheel Effect. Our journey through the intricate world of luxury home services continues to be fueled by your passion for excellence and innovation. If you found value in our conversations today, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. More insights and resources. Visit us online at growwithvital.com. Until next time.